Yay. Well, we've just gone live. It is Wednesday, 3rd of November, about 5 p.m. or just shy of 5 p.m. And I'm sitting looking out across the ocean here in the Algarve in Portugal. I'm very happy today to be meeting with somebody who I've known about for some time. Haven't known him terribly well, but looking forward to a tremendous journey ahead. He's a man who is indelibly connected to the pyramid code. That much I can tell you. He is also a driving force behind the Unifyd platform. And this is particularly exciting because the Unifyd platform is doing what a lot of folks are talking about, which is reinventing and reimagining social media. No one needs reminding of the last grotesque couple of years, emphasis, the years of Donald Trump challenging the social media engines in Silicon Valley, as well as the mainstream media echelon, all of whom are committing high crimes against humanity and graver crimes against God, it must be said, because the Silicon Valley and mainstream media engines are all in collusion and conspiracy and fraud. None of them are fulfilling their remits. None of them are speaking to the truth. They are part of this tremendous deception from which I am delighted to say humankind is now fitfully awakening from. So I'm pleased to introduce Jason Shurka. What I've got written in front of me is worth quickly reading. Born with an insatiable drive to learn and to create, Jason Shurka is not a typical entrepreneur from New York City. A real estate investor turned humanitarian, Jason decided to dedicate his life to opening the eyes and shedding light on the truth about humanity's suppression for thousands of years. Well, he's certainly very welcome into my field, just on that point alone. Since starting his new journey, Jason has appeared in countless interviews and shows on platforms, including Gaia TV. He's also been a speaker at many live events in front of thousands of attendees, with speakers such as my good friend, Dr. Christiane Northrup, Bobby Kennedy Jr., Dr. Lawrence Palevsky, Mel K, and many others. Happy to say they're all friends of mine. He has also created his own original films, one of which being a two-part documentary called COVID-19 Exposed, that sheds light on the corruption surrounding this godless pandemic. The documentary featured Dr. Lawrence Larry Palevsky and reached millions of people worldwide without ever being posted on mainstream streaming platforms. Well done there, Jason. He's also the founder of Unifyd, Unifyd, a brand new censorship-free social media platform run by the people for the people. He is a passionate advocate of bringing together and unifying people around the world and taking the steps together toward creating a world of unity, fueled by compassion, understanding, respect for one another's beliefs, and LOVE. That would be love, the stuff that makes the world go round. Jason Shurka, my friend, you are very, very welcome here today. Let me put the correct slide on. Jason Shurka, good to see you.
Thank you so much, Sacha, for the beautiful introduction. It's an honor to be on your show. Thank you.
That's fine. Just to let you know, we're syndicating to a few different platforms.
Cool.
The figures on the top of this one are just an indicator of the one platform, which is the safe place. But actually, there'll be a pretty big audience out there joining us roundabout now. Jason, the Pyramid Code, that's how I first heard of you. Actually, you kindly reached out to me and gave me a little bit of an education about a year or so ago, which I found fascinating. I was meant to take up the conversation with you at that time. Unfortunately, I also got snowed under with all of this COVIDiocy. But I'm very excited to learn about it here and now in front of my own audience. What is the Pyramid Code?
Absolutely. So yeah, we spoke about a year ago. I remember that. And I think everything just kind of works perfectly in terms of timing. So I'm sure that there's a reason why we're sitting here now in the way that we are.
Yeah.
In regards to the Pyramid Code, I'm going to try and keep, it's a long story and I'm going to consolidate it because it can get very intricate and detailed as well. But pretty much over the past few years, I've been going through this form of, call it like a disclosure process from certain individuals that came into my life, started as strangers, became very good friends. Now, the Pyramid Code is a document that was given to me back in 2020, around June of 2020. A document that was instructed to be written by somebody in a meeting that I was a part of, and I'll explain what I mean by that. But to focus on the Pyramid Code for a second, it really focuses on events that happened in ancient Egypt, tying back to who built the pyramids, how they built the pyramids, why they built the pyramids, the technology that was used to build them, why that's even relevant to know today, and how that technology is being used today for malicious purposes by certain individuals, and I would call psychopaths in power. So I was given this document, given the opportunity to publish the document by an anonymous source. Now, I know who that person is. He would like to remain anonymous. My goal is to get him to eventually to come out, but that's according to his own free will. So on September 9th of 2020, it was 9/9 at 9 a.m. Eastern time, I was instructed to publish this document, and I published it for free on my website, jasonshurka.com. And at that point, I didn't really have any sort of a platform. Sacha, within 3 hours, it reached every continent on Earth, with the exception of Antarctica, reached millions within a very short period of time. And that sort of jumpstart this whole sort of journey that I've been on the individual level and the public eye. So the Pyramid Code, the background of it starts with this, or at least the background that I'm aware of, because I don't know what I don't know. So I can only speak about what I do know. But in June of 2018, I was approached by an individual who I thought was a stranger. Think about it like you're walking on the street, somebody comes up to you, I like your necklace, starts a conversation. That's how it happened. One thing leads to the next. We had incredible conversations about high technology, extraterrestrial life, elites in power doing terrible things and imposing their will and sort of enslaving humanity as we see right now. And over time, since 2018, this stranger, I came to understand, was not a stranger. He pretty much was scoping me and scouting me over a period of time. And he's affiliated with a different organization called TLS. TLS stands for the Light System. Now, I didn't know this at the time until I was going through this disclosure process. And on February 6th of 2020, I'm invited to a meeting. You can call it a TLS meeting. Now, just to give you a little background into what this organization is really all about. Number one, their ultimate goal is to help assist and help humanity reaching a higher level of awareness, simplistically speaking. Now, the way that they do that is very interesting. They can have certain people in power that are planted in certain places to do things behind the scenes. They have very big producers who produce movies to instill subliminal messages to empower humanity. Subliminal messages in regards to what our power truly is, to get us acquainted with things that we would call supernatural, to really understand that we do have the ability to do these things. You could think of them as a form of an undercover and much more divine in terms of the way that they work, an undercover form of the CIA in terms of their structure, only not affiliated with the psychopaths that the CIA is affiliated with. So same structure, completely different intent. As a matter of fact, TLS holds a lot of operations having to do with rescuing children from the underground tunnels. So think of it like that war, underground war between the light and the dark. They're on the side that's doing their best to stop certain things from coming to fruition on the negative side and the enslavement side, while not imposing on the free will of humanity. And I emphasize that because a lot of people say if they have all this power and they're so powerful and so great, why do we still have what we're experiencing in the world today? And the answer is because there are things that they will do and there are things that they won't do. And the things that they won't do, they don't do because it would infringe upon the free will of humanity. So I just wanted to get that out of the way. Back to the meeting on February 6th of 2020, I'm sitting here with about 12 hours, a very, very long meeting that lasted overnight. And the only reason why it ended was because something happened, somebody had to go. But throughout that meeting, there was the leader of the meeting, the facilitator of the meeting, ordered the man who first approached me, who we're going to call Ray, but Ray is not his real name. That's his pseudonym for anonymity purposes, because that's what he wants to do right now. The facilitator of the meeting instructed Ray to document this thing called the pyramid code. And it was 9 of us in the meeting, 3 on one side, 6 on the other. I was one of the 6. I'm sitting there being spoken to, writing notes, and I still have those notes, by the way, handwritten for 12 hours, trying to digest everything that's coming my way. And let's put it this way, what happened in that meeting completely validated everything that I needed to know and understand was absolutely real over the 2 years leading up to that point of the disclosure process I was going through. And now all I know is the facilitator of the meeting orders Ray, again, not his real name, but orders Ray to document this thing called the pyramid code. And he says, and I'm going to paraphrase, not the exact words, but he says to Ray, you have permission to document your memory of your first incarnation. Now we're going into the whole spiritual side of things. You have permission to document the memory of your first incarnation with the condition that you also document the pyramid code. Now, the words that they were using were in Hebrew. This meeting, a lot of it was held in Hebrew. Nothing to do with Judaism, by the way. There are just certain things that have to do with codes, certain literal formulas with the Hebrew language and things like that that are used. Also, Ray happens to be Israeli in his background, or his native language is Hebrew. So that's his native language that he speaks. So the facilitator tells Ray, you're going to document this document. You're going to write down the pyramid code with it. And in Hebrew, they called it Torat HaPiramida, which means the pyramid Torah, the pyramid Bible.
Yeah.
Now, just so you understand, on that background, on the more mystical side of things, there's Torat HaMayim. Torat HaMayim means the water Bible. When you know those things, you can do incredible things with water. One being travel through it at very, very quick speeds. There's something called Torat HaEnayim, which means the eye Bible, allows you to read through understanding certain formulas, things through people's eyes. Torat HaChalamot means the dream Bible, allows you to be able to do incredible things with dreams. So this is called Torat HaPiramida, the pyramid Bible. But in English, it was translated to the pyramid code because there is a code, a formula that this document that you would read as a regular document was written according to. And for those who have access to the code, they're able to decipher information that somebody like myself wouldn't be able to, because I don't have that code. Not yet, at least, right? So that's another form of disclosure that we're going through. So the way this whole thing came out was he tells him to write it. Took a few months. This was in February. I'm given a handwritten document in Hebrew, and I was not proficient at the time in Hebrew whatsoever. So this was very difficult for me. I'm giving a handwritten document that eventually was typed into Hebrew, 31 pages, nothing long, nothing crazy. Now I'm giving it, okay, part of the condition in that meeting was the facilitator told Ray, you have to give everybody in this meeting the document when it's done. We'll talk about next steps after that's done. I'm given the document. I have help translating it. It was a long process and a tedious process for me to figure out what it is that I was reading. And I read this thing and finally understand what I'm being given. And it was incredible. It was eye-opening. It was empowering. It was beautiful. And here I am under the impression thinking that this thing has to be kept confidential, only to understand that TLS told Ray that he has permission to publish this to the entire world. But because Ray is a man who has worked undercover his entire time over the past 10 years working with TLS, Ray is an older guy with a family. Nobody actually knows who he is and what he does. Everything is completely undercover. His freedom of choice says, I don't want to come out. I don't want to reveal my identity. I don't want to deal with this. After I'm dead, put out whatever you want. And I'm looking at him and I'm saying, dude, what are you doing? This is powerful. This can help people. We have to get it out. And that went back and forth for about 3 to 4 weeks until he came back and he said, okay, listen, here's the deal. You want to put it out so bad? No problem. I spoke to everybody necessary in the organization. You have permission to put it out, but you're going to be the one to do it. And you're going to take my name and everybody else's name out of the document to make it anonymous. If you do that, you have permission to put out the document. And the first thing I said was, done, I'll do it. Little did I know, because what I didn't understand at the time was I was pretty much given an incredible opportunity to reveal information from an organization that's never came to light before publicly. And this would be the first time that that was coming out. So I'm sitting here, number one, why me? Who am I? What's going on? And am I really doing this? And the answer was, who would I be if I just asked him to do it? He said no. I'm pushing him to do it. He says you do it, and I say no. So I said yes. I'm given the date, September 9th, 2020, 9 a.m. Eastern time. Sacha, I'm telling you, no platform. I did not have a following. I put this document for free on jasonshurka.com. It reached millions. No advertising, no marketing, nobody. It just happened organically, I guess, because it resonated with the people that were reading it, and it was shared wildfire. And here we are today.
Laws of resonance, mate. Beautiful, beautiful. Well, thank you for that backstory. That's very helpful. Yeah, you kind of touched on the question, why you? But I think that's also kind of answered. I think we know why you.
I still don't know why me. I still don't know all the answers.
I know how you, because you were there. You were privy to that conversation, and the geometry of now is pretty explicit. Everything happens exactly as it's meant to be, always and always, and that's the end of it. But what sense of a foreboding do you have in carrying this legacy forward? And describe a little bit more in simple terms where and how you believe it can affect and impact humanity most favorably.
Sure. So the document covers a remembrance of history, not a document of history, not a history book that could have been changed according to intentions and an agenda. The document covers specifically in-depth details. Who built the pyramids? Were they human? Did they come from somewhere else? What were their intentions at the time? And did those intentions become corrupt? The reason why I think this document is so powerful and can help so much is, number one, there are a lot of lessons in there that can teach us a lot about how things work energetically, and more so I would call it like the spirit world. But more so than that, it really opens up the conversation and shows us where we once were. And the reason why that's so important is because right now the mainstream narrative tells us we're as advanced as we've ever been, technologically, medically, everything. And according to that document, we're extremely primitive right now. Now, I believe that certain individuals in power want to suppress knowledge of our own history, because if we knew that we had the power to use certain technology back in the day, whether spiritual or physical, to move massive stones, if we had the ability to communicate telepathically, if we had the ability back then to leave the atmosphere of Earth and travel galactically, then that would change the power that we know that we have today. And the common theme that I would say that I see, and I think we all see, is they keep wanting to keep us numb. They keep wanting to keep us dumb, because that's how you keep people controlled. The second you tell people you have the ability to access abilities that we would call supernatural, you just empowered an entire race that certain individuals in power do not want to empower, because the people in power would lose power.
Well, look, we're just now peeping into the flaming of a collective remembering of who we are. And the whole Tartaris mythos is now re-emerging as the source code, the golden age, golden era source code that actually was clearly infiltrated, subverted, and then crushed and bleached out of existence by a satanic and luciferic elements, which for their reasons, which we could go into the subtle metaphysics of blood drinking and adrenal chrome harvesting and the inversion and stealing of life force, essentially is what we're talking about, the mechanics of parasiting off divine light, vibral light, the prana or life force that humans are, and Adamites are the ultimate universal capacitors for transducing, transcoding that vibral prana life force into the temporal plane, and so we've been
Yes.
hijacked and we've been parasited off, and so it goes on. But the point I'm making is that the Tatarian and Tataris mythology and the remembering now of Hangabout, it's only been the last century or century and a half, possibly 2 centuries, where the complete defilement of truth has occurred, and the casting of a epic kind of cloak of deception over humankind has occurred, by design. By
Yeah.
whom becomes the question. By the echelon that I've been calling the Babylonian priesthood for a long time. But just to break away from the structure that this interview was going to be going into, and just to pick your brains a little. What do you think about the true chronology of history as we understand it? Let's go back to just BC AD, so 2021 years ago, that nexus point. So talk to me about what you know and what you're learning and remembering yourself about the true chronology of history. What is the, fill in some of the blanks as you see it.
First of all, I think back then we were much more positioned to connect dots because there was less specialization and more generalization. So one man or one woman, in that case, one man most of the time, was astrologer, astronomer, mathematician, physician, doctor, and so many things in between. And because they knew a decent amount about all of those things, they were able to bridge these gaps.
Yeah.
Never existed. The reason why I believe today we're so disconnected to a level is because right now we're basing ourselves off of this reductionism principle. We reduce everything to parts instead of understanding the whole.
Very good.
Back then it was much easier to see the whole, to see how this connects to that, because ultimately everything's connected to everything. But when you zoom in too much, you lose that overview. So I think number one, first and foremost, we were better positioned back then. However, I think 2,000 years ago, we were, to many extents, although more connected, also in a way more primitive, because back then there was a lot of enslavement. There was a lot of
okay, what the back then that you're referring to is when?
The back that I'm referring to is about 4,000 years ago during, and it depends what timeline of archaeology you go to. But based on what I'm talking about 3,500 to 4,000 years ago.
So as ancient Sumeria kind of transitioned into the Egyptian hoo-ha.
Correct. I think that there was an incredible power then that was used for positive intentions and eventually became corrupted.
Okay, but let's talk here about the legends of the giants of old, the gods of old, the angry, jealous gods, the Nephilim, Anunnaki. So all of that is kind of a potpourri of more or less the truth. Mm-hmm. We're talking about Nephilimic type giant, godly creatures that sort of visited Earth and left and visited again and left and visited again. And so we've got this architectural forms, which these fucking huge doorways in cathedrals and all of these totems of ruins that still exist around the world, where we've got the accommodation of huge doorways to allow for these visiting creatures to come in, presumably, and hold court when they were visiting us to check up on their chattel. I mean, one assumes that we are the progeny of those godly creatures, right? I mean, they are the primary elements in our the cosmogenesis of the seeding of humanity that you and I are living through, correct?
For sure. And I think that there are many types of those. So if you go according to the pyramid code, you're going to see that there was a big interbreeding era between different races, which, by the way, to me would make logical sense, because on one side, people say we came from an amoeba that turned into a fish that grew legs, started. It's the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. And then when I come and say, hey, guys, listen, maybe it was races that already somewhat looked a little bit like us that were mating and causing different types of offspring, causing the Asians, the blacks, all these different things, instead of all coming from this fish. That doesn't make sense to me. So that's a big portion of that history in the pyramid code and what I was taught as well. How it started in terms of life as we know it, that's a whole spiritual conversation of how matter or how energy sort of penetrates matter and becomes matter over a period of time. And
Yeah.
that's also spoken about in the Pyramid Code, by the way. But for simplistic purposes, to the point that we're at 4,000 years ago, human beings that didn't all look alike. When I say human beings, let me rephrase that. Different races that somewhat look like us. Some are taller, some are shorter, some have noses, some don't. Some have flat noses, some have big noses. It's just like what we see on diversity on Earth today. And that diversity is the sort of result of different species coming together and creating the interbreed offspring.
Very good. Very good. All right, back to the Pyramid Code. Do you think we'll be ready to receive the codes in the near future?
Let's put it this way. Number one, I'm not an advocate right now for the codes coming out. I don't know them, but I'll tell you why I agree with TLS on not revealing the codes right now. Think of the codes as a form of technology. That's exactly what they are. If that technology is released at the wrong time, meaning in a time where there are certain individuals in power that can cause mass destruction, it would be counterproductive to release them. So,
Jess, let me just jump in. Surely we're playing here the same old Victorian Edwardian bullshit that's been played against us, where some prick at the gate says, no, humanity's not ready for this. So what's distinct from what you're saying to what was said by the old Masons 130 years ago?
In the end result, nothing. In the root, everything. Because those Masons were working out of a place of control. There is a lot of hidden knowledge right now that is not being let out for both malicious purposes and benevolent purposes to help. So there are certain things, just like, let's say, and I understand what you're saying completely, because it's a trauma of ours, because we see there are these terrible individuals holding things back. So we automatically think secrecy is terrible. But there are some times where, for example, for me, if the man, Ray, walked up to me in 2018, told me everything he told me 2 years down the line, I would look at him, laugh in his face, tell him he's probably schizophrenic and walk away. And in that way, it would be counterproductive.
Yeah.
So the end result, or I would say the effect of how it looks, nothing. Yeah. The cause, where it's coming from, everything. One is to help, the other one is to control. One is to evolve, the other one is to stop, to enslave.
Yeah.
You know, so, and TLS is not the only.
No, very good. That's good. You made the distinction.
Yeah.
So, okay, do you think there are others around the world, or have you heard of any others who will be receiving documents such as this to release publicly?
So this is going to be very fun. On November 11th, perfect timing, by the way, in just about a few days from now, there's another document that was spoken about in the Pyramid Code called Rays of Light. Rays of Light is an 864-page book written between the years 2010 and 2014. In terms of its significance, it makes the Pyramid Code look like this. Rays of Light was also written, but not so written. It was more of a documentation of experiences and conversations, almost like a court reporter. Same idea, literal dialogues, trialogues, monologues, things like that of experiences, conversations. It was written between 2010 and 2014, TLS has encouraged Ray ever since. Put it out, put it out, put it out. People need to know this. But at the same time, Ray is his own person. He has free will, and TLS will not force. There is no forcing here, even if they don't agree with the way that he does things. So for a very long time now, they've been pushing him to put out this text. Ray says no, because he doesn't. It was always an all or nothing sort of deal, meaning there's no blocking out names, there's no protecting people's identities, there's none of that. He didn't want to deal with it. So it's been in a safe since. Now what happened was, over the past year, I think he's been gaining more comfort in terms of putting more and more out, simply because of how everything has been going in terms of, I put out the Pyramid Code, the feedback, everything. So there's been this conversation since I started of part of my job is to get him to do what he needs to do. That's one of the reasons I'm in the picture, that I know. So I've been doing whatever I can to get him to do it. And here's what we got so far.
Yeah.
First of all, I've only read 250 out of the 864 pages because that's all I've been given right now. By the way, back to our last, the portion of our conversation. If you gave me everything right now, I wouldn't read it yet. I don't think I'm ready. I think it needs to be done in a progression because it's very heavy. It's very intense, and there's a lot to take in.
Very good. Okay, all
So,
good.
so with that being said, I got him to agree to put out the first portion written in 2010, which is still a big portion. It's 176 pages in the original Hebrew, 234 pages translated into English, about 80,000 words. And the compromise now, and I think it's because TLS is saying, listen, we can't keep going this route. We're going to have to compromise while still maintaining his free will and respecting it. They now gave permission to say, okay, the compromise is we can redact certain names, meaning you're going to see blackouts in that text.
Okay, all good. Look,
Just
we're
to
getting
preserve
a
anonymity.
little too technical for this call, but how do people find the pyramid code as of now?
JasonShurka.com. It's all
Boom, that's
free.
it.
You go to JasonShurka.com, you'll see that. Rays of Light's coming out on 11/11.
Okay. Do you think the pyramid code will be censored or removed?
That's a good question. No. Rays of Light, maybe, because it talks more. There are conversations about 9/11 in there, conversations about AIDS, conversations about how the elites do what they do and how we can get out of their system.
Yeah. Okay.
Possible, whatever.
How is the pyramid code different to the Bible code of a few years ago?
Very. I'm not one that follows the Bible. The Bible most definitely has a code, but it's not one that's computer generated with all their algorithms. It's completely different than that. But I think that's a different conversation to have.
Okay. And can AI, is there an AI algorithm out there that could do all of this work in decoding?
The codes are very simple. The question is, you have to learn them. The codes for rays of light, I don't know it, but the code for rays of light is relatively simple, meaning you'll see throughout the text there are certain words that are written in English in the Hebrew. That's a part of the code. There are certain words that are bolded. There are certain sentences that are indented. There are certain times where instead of ... there are 8 dots with an exclamation point.
Very good. Very good.
So it's things that I don't completely understand because I don't have access to them.
Yeah.
But it's most definitely something you need to learn.
Very good. Okay. So going to this is the graphic of this show, and people are obviously curious as to see why the pyramid code connects to something called Unifyd. Unifyd. What a great concept. What a great meme. What a great logo. Talk to me about Unifyd.
Again, the overall idea of all of this work is how do we bring people to reach their true power? How do we reach a higher level of awareness collectively and really make this world a better place in the best way possible? One of the main tenets to that is unification, coming together. There's a reason why, and I know you know this, Sacha, the people in power unite to divide us because they know that you have to unite to make something work and you have to divide to control people. So how do we stop that? We don't need to fight them. We just need to come together ourselves. We can create our systems.
Yeah.
So part of my journey over the past year, because I've been censored and deleted so many times, is let me just create our own social media platform. And everybody's talking about it, like you said. And everybody that's talking about it somehow comes down to these crazy, like billion-dollar evaluations before they even launch something.
Yeah.
And it's just this whole, like, it's still the dirty old paradigm system. And I'm saying, let's change that. Let's change it. And it's going to be a new model and it's going to be something people aren't used to. But this new world that we're talking about is also going to be something that people aren't used to. So we got to make a change. So Unifyd is a social media platform that pretty much takes the basic foundations of social media. It looks exactly like Facebook, by the way, in terms of how it works. You can like, comment, share. It literally is a very similar layout. And I did that purposely. So you don't have to relearn a new platform. It's very user-friendly, very easy to use. The way that this is different is the current model, the old paradigm that I think is terrible because it puts the power in the elites instead of us, the people, we the people, is it's all based off of why is Facebook free? Why is Instagram free? Why is CNN and Fox News free? Why can you turn those things on and just use them? Because somebody's making money off of you. How are those platforms being funded? It's very simple. Advertisements, investors, shareholders. At the end of the day, the advertisements, that's a beautiful one. The advertisements are what's paying for this to happen in the first place. So why would CNN, Fox News, any mainstream channel never speak poorly about Big Pharma? Because Big Pharma is their main funder of their commercials. So they will never speak poorly about the people that are upholding them financially. So how do we change that? Well, we move the money into other people's hands. And we say, instead of the advertisers funding. Instead of a few investors funding, let's have the people fund it. And if enough people come, then everybody has to give a little, and we break free from that system by taking responsibility. So we created Unifyd. I created Unifyd according to the model of membership supported. It's completely member supported. It's $4.99 a month or $50 a year. That money goes straight back to make this platform work, and it is not an easy job. It's tens of thousands of dollars just at the beginnings, a month.
Yeah.
Just at the beginning stages of where we're at right now. And the only way this is going to work is if people come together, if people say, okay, we're going to make the switch, we're going to take responsibility and accountability, and we're going to fund the platform so we hold the power. Because at the end of the day, you follow the money. Wherever the money is, that's where the power is. Right now, the money is in the people in power, those few.
But also the fact of the matter is that people need to wake up to the fact that we're the ones being monetized and harvested
big time
by these Luciferian goons,
big time.
and all of it. And these imbeciles in the first instance are not who we think they are. These are engineered icons, proxies of satanic elites, which goes all the way back to Bill Gates and how that particular psyop was perpetrated against humanity.
Yes,
there's just been a phalanx of this kind of let's say satanic icon. It's really time for us to move beyond them. So when
they sell everything about us. They sell our behavior as a profile to know exactly what we're going to do next. And I'm personally sick of it. Everything's tracked. You're being spied on 24/7. They're telling you that that's what they're doing, and you can't do anything about it. And that's the price of a free platform with these people in power. So that's why we shifted the model and really inverted it to change where the power lies.
Very, very good. So to what extent is your platform necessarily reliant right now on the infrastructure, the apparatus of Silicon Valley?
None. We're not connected to Google. We're not connected to Amazon. We have servers in Austin and Arizona. The only thing that we are connected to, which doesn't matter because they can't do anything about it, is something called, I believe we use a CDN for video processing. That doesn't mean that they host our videos. That just means that they make our videos easier to process so we can bring it back to the site quicker, and it just makes everything quicker. With that being said, if anybody in power wants to cut that CDN, that doesn't mean anything to our site. That just means that we're going to find another thing to make the processing faster, but everything will always remain up. And Sacha, as transparent as possible, they've tried hacking us already. They've tried doing whatever they can possibly do to take us down, and they will continue to do that. And that's where just more security protocols come in. We do whatever we can. I have a full team working on the whole thing 24/7 to keep this thing up and running. But that's what we're up against. There's a war right now. And instead of trying to destroy Facebook, instead of trying to destroy Instagram, I just say, number one, let's use Facebook and Instagram to go against them, because it is a good outlet with billions of people on it. So we use it to bring awareness to other platforms like Unifyd.
Very good.
That's it. And what happens next? You build a better system. People come. The old system falls.
Okay. All good. Now, look, how many people are using the platform right now?
About 10,000.
Oh, wow. Oh, this is good.
Yeah.
That's a really robust startup community. I like that.
We started 10 days ago, Sacha. 10 days ago.
I know. And how many? I mean, you've got a bunch of my friends are already using it. Influencers are already pitching it, which I'm really happy about. Got to say, the affiliate links, got to do some work on that.
Yeah, that's going to be switched in about a month. It's going to be unifyd.com/join/Sacha Stone. So that's
good. Very, very good.
Being changed.
I want to push it out, but a lot of my people are like me, geriatric, and won't be able to reach for a pencil and a piece of paper.
Absolutely.
Long enough to write this all down.
It's all going to be fixed very soon. That was for trademarking purposes, by the way.
I understand. Okay, so to my audience, just to let you know, you can right now write down academyofdk.com, blah, blah, blah. It's all down there.
Yes.
And you can jump onto the platform. I do heartily recommend you do so. I'm right now in Perda from Facebook. I'll be back on there in about a week. And I think what I'll be doing for the rest of this year is arranging for a transition away from Facebook. And I'm going to be causing as much bodily harm to that Leviathan on the way out as humanly possible.
By the way, one of the main things I've seen that I love right now is there's the ability, you can create events, you can create groups as well. And the groups are flying. There are people creating groups, 1,000 members there's one called the Lightworker Times. There's one all about common law, taking back your sovereignty. So you can create whatever groups and events you want, and people come together on these things, especially because it's a new platform. So it's really hot right now on people coming together in that way.
That's terrific. I'm really pleased to hear it. Okay, look, we're going to wind this up. This is just the first drop-in broadcast with Jason. We're definitely going to do another one next month. And Joanna on my team is going to be working with Jason and his team to help conjoin DNA. So, Jason, anything else you want to add to this broadcast, brother? Now's the time.
Really just the fact that I am grateful to see that people are making a change. Things are changing. I know they want people to think that we're really asleep, and it's just not the case. You know, there are thousands of flights being canceled. There are tons of new platforms coming. That doesn't happen if we were as asleep as they make us out to be. And I'm just grateful to be alive in this moment right now.
Very good. So my last question, Trump and his brave new social media hoo-ha. What is that? I mean, how does that play into you? Is that something you endorse? Are there any games going on there that you want to talk about?
Here's what I think, and I don't want to speak poorly about him whatsoever. But in terms of the model, when it comes to the model that was built, all that's really happening here is the power is moving from Mark Zuckerberg to Donald Trump. And even if he's an angel and great, what happens when he dies? Somebody else will hold that power. That's why that's the accountability of this new model.
It's good.
We got to change.
Yeah, my peeps will understand that. Jason Shurka, brother, lovely seeing you and greatly looking forward to this journey.
Thank you.
Okay, friends, that's it. I'll be dropping in again tomorrow, actually the same time as today's broadcast, live from, let me quickly throw this image up if I've got it. Do I have it? No, I don't. It's live, the revolution in Trieste. It will be a bunch of political pundits and journalists in Italy who are taking the front line on the revolution taking place in Trieste. Again, desperately important for the world. Trieste is the state of states, the nation of nations. It's actually geostrategically probably the single most important point on Earth for many different reasons, which people are going to find out soon enough. You think that Manhattan and the United Nations is an important geonode? Yes, it is. You think that the Vatican, District of Columbia, and the City of London are important? Yes, they are. Basel, Switzerland? Yes, indeed. But let me tell you right here, right now, Trieste in Italy, and it's not actually Italy, it's its own independent state, but that is a vitally important geonode planetarily. You're going to find out tomorrow why when I go online at 5 p.m. my time, which is in Lisbon, Portugal. Jason, brother, love you and thank you and see you next month.
Thank you. Bye-bye.